So hi, everyone. Sorry for this wait, for this little delay. Thank you for joining this month's Tadamon Talks. I'm Svetla Baeva. I'm the communications lead with UNDP Europe and Central Asia, and I'll be moderating this information session that we've prepared for you today. So Tadamon Talks is a webinar series that explores alternative finance for civil society empowerment. In some of our past series, we've looked at insights and learnings on crowdfunding and other related topics, at good practices for civil society capacity building, and we've brought in prominent alternative finance experts and crowdfunding platform leaders to tell us a little bit about their experiences. So this initiative is powered by the Tadamon platform, which is sponsored by ISFD and managed by ISDB and implemented by us at UNDP. So if you're here with us today for the very first time, you should know that Tadamon is a cross-regional community platform for civil society empowerment. And in this month's Tadamon Talks, we're going to focus on what you're probably eager to find out about, which is our newly launched Tadamon Accelerator and our open call for it, which is an open call for innovative projects and solutions addressing more widely public and humanitarian crisis responses and community resilience, which of course includes issues related to COVID-19 and much wider development issues, but you're going to hear about that in more detail a little later on. So we're already recording this session and we're going to be streaming it on Tadamon's Facebook page. So feel free to share it afterwards or come back to it once the session is over. In the end, we're going to have time for a Q&A session, but don't be shy and feel free to drop your questions in the chat during the webinar as we go forward. We have a couple of our partners were supposed to join us today, ISFD and ISDB, but they might be joining us a little later, and we're going to reserve some time for them to share some remarks. But I'd like to invite first, before we begin, for our UNDP colleague, Leila Sadiku, who is the innovation team lead at UNDP Europe and Central Asia, to say just a couple of words about the program and what to expect.
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see such a big group coming together. As Svetla mentioned, and you will hear from the rest of the team as well, this Tadamon Accelerator is really a joint effort and joint initiative between ISDB, ISFD, and is implemented by UNDP. You're going to hear much more about the program, but maybe just a couple of things that I hope I can kind of gauge your interest on. First, the program is designed to support civil society organizations, especially in terms of building resilience. It is a response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the other crises that are happening. Second, I think the way in which you should look at the program is really as an opportunity to learn, to connect, but also everything will be designed really throughout the process to respond to the needs that you have and to respond to the unique context in which you work. So we try, as the team that you see here, the Incredibles team that is behind all of this, really tries, I'd say, out of its way to make sure that your needs are met and that that we also support your organizations in terms of reaching higher impact, being more effective, and connecting with others. The last thing that I want to say is maybe just a quick note that the deadline is June 10th. Make sure to apply, and we'll have and so please use this opportunity to ask any type of questions that you may have. And the team is here during this call and also after this call as well to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Leila. And now we're going to start the main course of our program today. Our session will be led by our team at UNDP. This will be Ben Thompson-Kuhn, who's the mapping and outreach expert at UNDP with the Tadamon team at UNDP, and Luis Carvalho, who's the accelerator lead. They're going to introduce Tadamon, give you a little bit of an overview of the platform, give you an overview of what the Tadamon Accelerator is and what you can expect from the upcoming program, and most importantly, how to apply by June 10th. So remember, you can still ask your questions in the chat as we present, and we're going to try to answer them as we go along. So over to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope everybody can see my screen. Let me know if there's a problem. Thank you very much, Svetla. My name is Ben Thompson-Kuhn, and as Svetla already mentioned, I'm working as a mapping and outreach expert with the UNDP Istanbul Regional Hub. And I'm here to talk a little bit first about the kind of general framework of the Accelerator program. And after me, my colleague Luis will go into a bit more detail about what the Accelerator and the program actually is, and what the training is about and how it's structured. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to apply and what the requirements are for the Accelerator. And then, of course, the most important section will be the Q&A, where you will have a chance to ask all the pressing questions that you might get during the presentation. But I also want to highlight that we do have a number of colleagues and experts here on the call who can also answer your questions in the Q&A box. So if you look at the kind of menu on your Zoom application, you can see that there's a chat box, but there's also a Q&A box. So I would kindly like to ask everybody to put their questions in the Q&A box, because then everybody else can see your question, and we can avoid a little bit of repetition and be more efficient. All right, so what is the Tadamon Accelerator? I'm sure everybody is thinking about this question, and the Tadamon Accelerator, it's a program where we are looking for civil society organizations to drive social impact through innovation. And as Svetla already said, it's funded by ISDB and ISFD and managed by us, UNDP. So Tadamon Accelerator was born out of this idea to have an emergency response accelerating program for civil society organizations. Obviously, the latest global emergency has been COVID-19. So we started thinking about how we can help civil society organizations better respond to challenges that might emerge from such crises, and also how to scale up the innovations that CSOs have during such unprecedented times. We also want to be a driver of social impact in OIC member countries. So this is countries that belong to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. We also want to provide capacity development. We want to improve and add to the skill set and capabilities that the US CSOs already might have. And we also want to maybe introduce new ways of approaching existing development challenges, to kind of help you rethink the ways you might operate, as well as, of course, you will hear soon, we do provide grants also to participating organizations and to innovations that we kind of see that could be scaled up and could be very successful in the future. So if you have an innovative project or solution that you think would change the world, but you think that you need a little bit of an extra boost, we would be very happy if you would apply. And I just remind you that the application deadline is on the 10th of June. So the Accelerator is structured around an innovation challenge. And we are challenging civil society organizations around 3 core thematic areas. So the first of our thematic areas is emergency medical response. And all our thematic areas are kind of open. So we don't want to define too tightly what can be a innovative solution in this area. But we want to highlight innovative technologies and digitalization and new digital services. So it could be accelerating access to healthcare, improving health outcomes, monitoring and surveillance mechanisms, telemedicine. This is a very kind of popular area now during COVID-19 when mobility is restricted. and other such solutions. Our second thematic area is education in emergency. So also due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a lot of restrictions in education, especially for younger children, due to lockdowns and mobility issues. So also in here, we are looking for innovative technologies, new digital services, but we also wanted to add the element of climate change in here. So I just want to highlight that we're not focusing specifically only on COVID-19, but also on lessons that were learned from this crisis and also can be applied to future challenges. Obviously, our third thematic challenge is building community resilience. So we want to make communities kind of more prepared for future shocks. And in here also, we want to highlight technologies and digital services, as well as climate change, especially in terms of green recovery. So I'll just quickly go through about through the eligibility criteria. So some of you might already be familiar with Tadamon as a broader project. So we do require all organizations that apply to be members on our Tadamon platform. It's a web-based platform that we have created and where we offer a number of different activities, including this Tadamon Accelerator. We'll talk a little bit more about that when I go through the sign up. All organizations that apply have to be registered in their respective countries. So this means that if you are implementing a project, say in Lebanon, you have to also be registered with the correct authorities in Lebanon. Even if you are an organization that operates on an international scale and you might have activities in multiple different countries, when you propose a solution or an innovation as part of the accelerator, you have to propose it in a country where you are licensed to operate. We are looking for organizations who have a little bit of experience. So we require a proven experience of minimum 2 years. We do ask also during the application phase that you kind of prove this, explain a little bit what you have done during the past 2 years. We are offering the program in English. I know there's already been quite a lot of questions about this, whether we offer training in French, Arabic, some ask, maybe Russian, because this is a kind of global challenge and a global initiative, and we have 32 countries from which civil society organizations will be joining. We will only be offering the accelerator in English. Your proposals will, of course, have to address one or more of the 3 thematical areas that I already covered. And obviously, you will have to be registered in one of the 32 member countries that have endorsed the Tadamon program. You can see the countries here on the screen, but if you also go to our website, maybe Burcu, you can drop the link into the chat. If you go to our website, you can also see if your country is listed in one of the countries that we kind of permit CSOs to apply from. I know there's going to be questions about this, so I'll just say that our program targets all 57 OIC member countries, and we don't want to discriminate towards any countries, but the countries here are selected based on which countries and governments have endorsed the program that the accelerator is part of. So selection criteria, obviously when you apply to the accelerator, you will submit a project proposal, and we will then see which ones are the best based on project feasibility. So of course, how it addresses the 3 different challenges. Innovation novelty. So I want to highlight it's an innovation challenge. So we are looking for new and innovative solutions to problems that you might face in your communities. We are also looking at management. So we are looking for strong organizations that have a strong team that have actually the potential to implement these solutions within 6 to 12 months of completion of the accelerator. We are looking for innovation solutions that are scalable. So this is a very kind of important criteria. So we are not looking for a one-off project, but we are actually looking for inventions and innovations that we see potential in scaling in the future. Maybe they can be replicated somewhere else. Maybe, you know, there's something we can learn about them, or you can partner up with other organizations as well and kind of export your model. We are looking for organizations that might already have some kind of established partnerships. So this is one selection criteria. If you actually can prove that you are working within the broader ecosystem in your countries and communities, this will be a great bonus. And of course, the most important is sustainable development and potential for impact. So if your innovations have a broad reach, they are actually addressing critical challenges in your communities, and not just focusing on maybe like a tiny group of beneficiaries, this will of course garner a lot of points in the application process. I think now it's time to give the microphone to my colleague Louise, and she'll talk a little bit about the program overview. So over to you, Louise. I can continue sharing the presentation, so just let me know when I have to switch the slide.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for a great overview. And it's really nice to meet all of you. I'm Louise, and I've been working as an accelerator lead for UNDP since February. So I just wanted to highlight what Leila mentioned in the beginning. What we're really trying to do with this program is to learn about your needs and how the program can be best tailored to address those needs and help you accelerate your innovations and scale them. So what I will present now is an overview of some of the modules and the design of the program, which is it's a 14-week online program. But keep in mind that the curricula and the way that we implement this will be influenced tremendously from the feedback and the information we receive from you, and also the types of organizations and the focus areas that you will be working on. So this is not set in stone, it's an overview, and we will be happy to work with you to further detail and refine this. Maybe next slide. Oops, that went too fast. So what we have for the Tadamon Accelerator is basically 5 modules, which we hope will help you really define the business model that you will apply to really scale your innovation. So we can look at them one by one. The first one is really about your organization and how you organize and manage your project. So you will be working with some of our partners to learn about your business, what model, what financial model should you be using. And there's a really big set of content that we will be working with you on. So presenting the modules and then having a number of assignments that you will work on. So by the end of the program, you will be better at managing your project, scaling it, reaching finance, etc. So this is really the core. Then on the other hand, we have the impact module. Again, a really important aspect of why we're doing the Tadamon Accelerator. Here you will really learn about what impact is, what it means for you as an organization, what's your theory of change, and how can you measure and manage that impact. Maybe communicate to your beneficiaries or your target group, but also to the donors or to anyone else who's interested in investing and supporting you with your innovation. The third one is about digital transformation. We know that the crisis, primarily the COVID crisis, showed us how important it is to be able to offer solutions digitally. And obviously this requires a shift in mindset. It requires you to work with new tools and approaches. So we will be providing you with a lot of basic information, like what are the digital principles we need to have in place to be able to move our organizations and our innovations forward. But also, what are the tech and digital trends that we might be able to benefit from and incorporate into how we do and how we scale our innovations and projects. The fourth one is a really interesting one. This is actually something that came out from one of our first accelerator programs in 2020 and 2021. What we realized was a lot of the civil society organizations that participated in our boost program at that point, they didn't really know how to best do the outreach and how to communicate with their target groups. So what we wanted to do was to really build capacity around behavioral insights so that we better understand the community we work with or the context we're operating in. This can be anything from changing the way that we design a project or a solution, but also how we communicate and how we do our outreach campaigns, for example. This is a very interesting one, and I am fairly sure that most of you will really benefit from it. The fifth one is core to the Tadamon platform. It's about crowdfunding. So how do you design a successful crowdfunding campaign to really attract both backers, those that will be supporting your project, but also providing finance so that you can scale it. In addition to this, there's a number of boosters that we have. I like to call them boosters because they're adding additional benefits to you. On the one hand, we will have a lot of Tadamon talks where we will be inviting really interesting speakers to provide perhaps insights in those respective fields where you're working. We will also offer a lot of mentorship, both from technical experts working in the areas that you're active in, but also you will be meeting with us, the Tadamon team, who will be working hand in hand with you to kind of learn about your organizations and your opportunities and challenges, and also assess your progress. There will be a lot of peer-to-peer learning. This is really why we're doing this regional program or global program. There's a lot to learn from each other, and there's opportunities to partner. You will also have the opportunity to join our alumni network afterwards. And through that alumni network, you will be able to meet other graduates from UNDP's acceleration programs, both the Tadamon one, but also other acceleration programs. And we believe that there's opportunities for you to really gain from each other's experiences. In addition, we have something called sense making, and this is really core to how UNDP operates. This is part of something that we call systems thinking. We want to understand what makes sense. What are we currently doing? What is Tadamon doing? What are the respective organizations doing? And what can we do more of, or less of, or differently to really address systemic challenges? So this is something that we use as a learning tool when we try to understand and make sense of what each one of you do. And I just want to highlight before we go to the next slide that this is a 14-week online program. So everything is happening online. There will be about 2 to 3 sessions, content sessions per week. And we will require weekly commitment of about 5 to 8 hours. Most of the sessions will be presented, or there will be a speaker, and you will have the opportunity to engage. You know, there will be breakout rooms, very interactive, all in English, of course, but there will also be some self-learning. So you will have the opportunity to learn and then meet with mentors, with speakers and your peers to discuss the progress of your program or project. Next slide, please. So just to highlight some of the key workshops that we will be covering. So one of the fundamental things that we want to help you think about is design thinking, to really have this approach at the back of your head always. Who are you designing for and why? And once you start thinking and learning about this approach, you will see how it influences every step of the way that you take when you advance and further develop your project. We will talk a lot about value proposition. What do you have to offer and why and to who? We will be working with you to prototype and build and test your solution. And of course, like I mentioned in the beginning, there will be a lot of focus on project management. How do you work effectively, and how do you really make sure that you use your resources and your partnerships to the best possible effect? There's obviously going to be a number of sessions on impact and how to measure and manage that impact. We will be working with you on design and branding. So how can you make your NGO, your civil society organization, or your solution really stand out? There's going to be lots of focus on storytelling. How do you present your story? Who are you? This is really, really important, especially if you look at crowdfunding campaigns. We will also be doing these workshops on behavioral science. So really try to apply behavioral insights on how people work, how they function, what inspires them. This is also really, really interesting. And then, of course, alternative finance. I think some of you have already participated in the previous Tadamon talks, but we will be having more interactive sessions on this. And everything will be, we will try to make it as needs-based and tailored as possible. Next slide, please. So there's obviously a lot of benefits for you, although it's a very intense program. Anyone applying should know that we will require participation. We will require that you're actively engaging and submitting your assignments. But what you will have access to is top mentors from all around the world who will be able to work with you to really think about your solution or innovation and how to best scale it. You will, like I mentioned, there will be this tailored program, and you will have access to the recordings afterwards. So you will be basically able to tap into the sessions and the content even after the program. There will be financing opportunities. I will cover that in the next slide, both grants, but of course, we will also connect you with our network and our partners' networks to see how you can use the pitch that you will be developing as part of the program to reach additional investors. And on top of this, of course, you will have access to UNDP's global network. And we have expertise in a number of areas, and we worked a lot on the COVID response and other crises. So this is also an opportunity for you to either tap into the ecosystem in the country where you operate or even in a different country. Next slide, please. So we will be, thanks to our partners and donors, be able to offer 25 grants to a value of $460,000. This is a lot of money, but not one organization will, of course, receive them. We have, as you can see on the slide here, a grant distribution. So there will be 3 organizations receiving up to $40,000. And then depending on the size of the organization and the readiness, you can see here how the grants will depend or will range from 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, and 10,000. And we will be monitoring your performance during the acceleration program. How much are you growing? How much are you accelerating as a team and your project? But also, how ready are you to scale? And the idea is for these grants to be used to help you scale and further develop your innovation to really make it scalable in the end. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here's the timeline. So currently, as you know, the call has been launched and you have until the 10th of June to apply. So really go in. It takes time to apply. Ben will describe exactly what you need to do, but my recommendation, of course, would be to start sooner than later. It will close on the 10th of June. And after that, we as a team will go through a rigorous selection process. We will be shortlisting those organizations that meet all the eligibility and selection criteria. And the shortlisted organizations will actually be called for interviews where we will be making sure that it's the right fit, that the organizations speak English, that the organizations are registered. So there will be some type of verification process, but also for us to really meet you and start learning about your needs so that we can tailor the program. In August, we will be announcing the selected civil society organizations that will participate. We will select 50 organizations in total, so quite a few. The program will run from September till November. Like I said, it's 14 weeks, quite intense. And then we will have a graduation, or what we call a demo day, in December. So here's when you pitch your innovation, your project, to our jury. And we will thereafter select those that will receive the grants for implementation. And after that, you will join our alumni network if you're interested, and hopefully also continue to be a member of the Tadamon platform, and perhaps even support new participants in future Tadamon acceleration programs. So I think I'll stop there. Over to you, Ben, for the application process.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise. I briefly went through some of the questions already in the chat and in the Q&A box, and I saw there's a lot of interest and people were already asking how to apply. So I'll go through the process. I see some questions in the chat box, and I would like to repeat that, please, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box so it's easier for our colleagues to address them, and they will be visible for everybody else as well. So how do you apply? So the first step, as I already mentioned, is that you have to be a signed member on our Tadamon platform. This is a very easy step. It takes about 10 minutes. And the only thing you have to do is you have to go to our Tadamon platform. I have the link on the screen, and we can share it again in the chat, and fill in our sign up form. So once you go to the website, you can see in the top right corner, there's a button where it says sign up. Just click on that and you will access our application sign up form. And for this sign up form, it's basic information about your organization, where do you operate, you know, a little bit what's your organization size. And the only thing that you actually need for this step is you need your organization registration document. So that's very important to have that at hand, because we will ask all organizations that sign up to the platform to prove their registration status in their respective countries. Once you have signed up to our Tadamon platform, you will automatically generate a profile that you can use to log in to your own organization profile. So once you've signed up, you can see left to the sign up button, there's this login button. So you can go back at any time and see what activities we offer and apply to them at your own time. So you don't have to do it all at once. So once you then sign up to your organization profile, you will see the following screen. This is just a test screen that we created, but you will basically see your organization dashboard. And on the organization dashboard, depending from which country you are signing up, you will see a number of activities. So for some countries, you can see we do have Crowdfunding Academy application open, but if you want to apply for the Tadamon Accelerator, click on the thumbnail for the Tadamon Accelerator. The application form for the Tadamon Accelerator is a bit longer, so I do advise that you prepare a little bit. You have some documents about your proposed project. You have a little bit of information about your team members and your organization, so it will be smoother. We will also add a feature here where you can basically fill in your application form partially, and then you can save it and go back and fill it later if you don't have all the information that is required. But as I said, the first step is to sign up to the Tadamon platform. And once you have done that, you will then be able to access all of the rest of the application forms. I'm sure there's a bunch of different questions regarding this. So feel free, if you have some specific questions, to put them in the Q&A box. What I'll just say, because we get a lot of questions regarding organization status. So once you go to your profile, you see your organization status here. It says in this example, it says in yellow, pending approval. So what we have on the platform, we have a verification procedure in place where we do verify all the organizations that apply. And this verification procedure might take a while. So don't worry about this. If it doesn't say approved on your organization profile, it doesn't mean that we haven't seen your application. It doesn't mean that you can't apply or that you have been rejected. You should see in a couple of days, your status should change from pending approval to pre-approved. This means that your organization has been screened and you can apply to all of our activities. And only after we've done a kind of rigorous verification will it show that your organization is approved. But don't wait for this. You can apply immediately after you sign up to the Tadamon platform. I think that's kind of all for the sign up. We can see if we do have some specific questions in here that we can address. But what I'll just say that once you go, I'll just actually go back here. So once you go to your organization dashboard and you click on the Tadamon Accelerator link, you will access the application form, but we also do have there then specific guidelines for the accelerator that you can download as a PDF. We have some attachments that you will need to fill. So just bear in mind that there's a kind of detailed explanation of the process also attached to the application form. If you have any kind of questions of like, what should I put here? And like, what is required of our organization regarding the program, don't worry about it. You'll find all the documents behind the link. So just to remind you, the deadline is on the 10th of June. So I encourage you all to at least now go to the platform, check out the application form, what is needed, and then you can always go back to your profile once you have created it and finalize your application. All right, that's all from my side. So maybe I'll give the microphone back to Svetla because now it's time for Q&A.
Hi, Ben, thanks. Great presentation. And we have a couple of questions that are already in the Q&A box, and I would like to invite you. There's a couple that are about the application form. In terms of describing the problem, and then a question regarding what do we mean exactly by planning, preparation, prototyping, and implementation. And I just invite you, we can answer these live as we go.
Perhaps I can start. So regarding the question of prototyping, testing, planning, etc. So one of the things that we will be looking at is obviously the level of readiness you are for scale up. So I'm not ruling out innovative ideas, but it is important to recognize that we are looking at organizations that have been operating for 2 years, that have more of an advanced idea or something that can easily be scaled. So if you're just thinking of something cool and new and innovative, perhaps you need to do a little bit more thinking to be able to actually be selected for the program. We want to really make sure that we scale innovations, and the program is really designed to boost you, to push you to that level where you can scale. So if you just very initial stage, perhaps the program is not the right fit for you right now. When it comes to planning, prototyping, designing, each organization will obviously be at a different stage. And what we will do is we will tell you and inform you about the different stages. Then you will, of course, have to apply what's relevant and useful for you. And as you know, with any type of innovation, any project, it's an agile process. You go back and forth. So even if you have an innovative idea that's more advanced, perhaps you need to go back and replan and test and pilot. So it's really about giving you that platform, that knowledge to do it. Where you are in your development process, it's less relevant. You will take what's relevant to you and apply. Maybe I'll stop there and hand over to Ben for the other question.
What was the other question? Not sure.
It concerned the application form and whether the applicants need to describe the problem twice.
Yeah, I actually see it here. Yeah, I mean, we have two different questions there. So the other one is about the description about the proposal. So this is a bit broader. It's a general description about the project or the solution that you are proposing for a problem. And we want you to go into a little bit more detail about the actions that you are planning, you know, how the proposal or the solution looks like, what is maybe required for it. And then the question about the problem is we want you to specify the actual problem that the proposal is addressing. So in the second question, you don't need to describe your actions and your response to it, but maybe go like into a bit more detail about, you know, if it's a community-based problem, you know, in a specific community, you know, why is the problem, where does it stem from, who does it affect, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if this clarifies the question, but this is the way that we have kind of structured the application form because of the selection criteria that we have, and we may want to make it a little bit easier also for our evaluation board to kind of look at different elements in both the challenge and the solution so that we can be fair to all the applicants.
Thank you, Ben.
I'll just want to address one of these questions quickly. Sorry. I see there's a few questions about this specific issue of why is our profile pre-approved. So I think I already addressed this in the presentation, but I'll just say again that once you apply to the platform, if your profile says pre-approved, it means that we have already seen your application, we have seen your sign up, and we have approved it to the platform. So this means that you can apply. It's basically a green light for you. If it says approved, it means that your organization has been verified by UNDP, the government, as well as ISDB. And this is a bit of a longer process. Sometimes it might take up to a month because we have a lot of different partners that are all interested in who is signing up to our platform. But for all intents and purposes, if it says pre-approved, it's a green light and you are able to apply.
Thank you, Ben. I think this answers the question perfectly. One of the next questions that came in was about whether the solution that's put forward has to be limited to a physical product. I can take this question. It doesn't have to be linked to a physical product, of course. It can be a shift, a different approach that uses perhaps different, you know, it can also use digital technologies, but doesn't have to be. But it can be an innovative approach to a problem that needs to be addressed. What we say when we say prototype, we want you to have possibly looked ahead, possibly have worked on your idea to see that you're thinking about how to implement it. It doesn't have to be like at a very late stage, but we want to see that you're already thinking about how this idea can actually become reality. And feel free to join, colleagues, if there's anything you want to add.
Maybe
yeah.
just to say that by prototyping, it means that you basically, in a way, already you have a product. It doesn't have to be physical. It could be a campaign, for example, an outreach campaign, something that you're doing together with your target group. But you've tested it and you have some insight, you have some learnings, and now you want to take it to the next level. So a prototype, see it more as something that's a little bit tested. You have something tangible that you want to accelerate through the program and learn more and use the tools that we can teach you to take this to the next level. There was another question that I thought was interesting about what we can do to make, or what you can do to make sure that your application is strong. So this is a very good question. So I would recommend that think about it from the perspective of the evaluators. We are sitting here with our selection criteria. You've seen them. They're also available on the website. So what we will be doing is we will try to understand whether you have what it takes or what's the minimum requirement to join our program. So be as concrete as possible. It doesn't require that you write very long answers. It could be bullets, but make sure that you make it very clear to the evaluator what it is that you have to offer. If they ask about the problem, explain only the problem that you're trying to address, not how you're going to address it, with whom, just the problem. It could be, I don't know, it could be low access to markets. It could be very specific, but be very concrete. If possible, if you have links, of course, you can include those. It's a type of evidence that we can then look at. But do also remember, the evaluation board only speaks English. So you cannot rely on the fact that we will be able to access information in French or Arabic. We will do our best, but if you want to communicate something very specific, do write it in English and make sure that you translate it. I don't know if that was good enough, but short, clear, and really think about what you will be evaluated on. That would be my best recommendations.
Thank you, Louise. Ben, do you have any tips and tricks for applications?
I think Louise kind of summed it up perfectly. I don't have anything to add to that.
Great. I would maybe just say also make sure that you align your area of work with one of the thematic areas that are outlined within the call, so that we know which area you're applying for very clearly. There's another question that's in the chat, an important question, I think. It's about budget limitations. Are there any?
Should I take this one? We don't have, for a maximum budget, we don't have. And for the project proposals, we don't have either. We are looking for organizations that have an annual budget of, if I'm not mistaken, around 100,000 US dollars annually. It is not a criteria. I'm just saying this because the requirement for the organizations that apply is that you have past experience and that you have a strong team and that you have implemented projects before. So, I mean, if your organization is a tiny organizations with you know, 2 people and you put it up 2 months ago, it's probably not the right organization to apply. So we are looking for organizations that are actually capable of implementing these proposals. We also have a kind of criteria of organizations. They have to implement the proposed solution within 6 to 12 months. So, I mean, these are kind of guidelines for us. They are not criteria per se in terms of the budget, but we are kind of looking for strong organizations that actually kind of have the proven capacity to implement the solutions and innovations that you propose. I think this might also link to another question that were about the budget. The grants. I think there was a question that was about the kind of connection of the grants and the budgets. So, I mean, who will get the 40,000? Who will get the 10,000? As Louise said, it's based on your performance during the accelerator, how well you are able to present your solutions, but also during the accelerator, you will have to propose a budget for the solution that you are proposing. So, I mean, some organizations might not need 40,000. They might only want 20,000 for their solutions. I'm sure everybody will, of course, try to apply for the 40,000. But I mean, rest assured, our experts will see, you know, which kind of grant amount would maybe best fit your organizations, and which kind of grant amounts also kind of provide the biggest boost for your solutions. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but.
Ben,
No
I actually wanted to ask a follow-up question. Are there any requirements in terms of co-financing from the organizations?
That's a good one. Yeah. So I can answer that one as well. So yes, we do require a co-financing amount of a minimum of 30%. So you cannot apply to the accelerator, and if you have a project that requires 40,000 to implement, and you are expecting to get that 40,000 from us. So we require that you also bring something to the table. It depends. Sometimes it can be in kind, depending on what kind of contribution it is. But for all the grants, we require that all the applicants have at least 30% of the budget amount from their side. It can be from a partner. That's why we want to highlight the partner network. So if you have an innovation or a solution and you have more than one organization, maybe you are teaming up with the private sector, maybe you already have previous funders, maybe it's some kind of public institution that you are partnering it up with, maybe it's a philanthropy from abroad. All this is okay, but we are looking for organizations that can self-fund and also bring something to the table.
So I see a question regarding the Tadamon Crowdfunding Academy. Some of you may, for example, already have participated in this program. Some of you may feel that this is not relevant for you. So I just wanted to highlight that this is not a requirement. What we will do is we will basically present what we can offer to you and your organization in terms of developing a crowdfunding campaign. If it's relevant, if you have the team and the capacity to also take on this assignment or go on to this journey, you will be applying to the academy. And if you're selected, we will help you develop your crowdfunding campaign. But this is not a requirement. It's not something that's a core module. It's only for those who are interested and have the capacity and who would really benefit from designing a crowdfunding campaign. There will be similar, let's say, content across the other modules. So we will highlight, and it will be very clear to you what would be the minimum requirement, what would be the content that you really need to absorb and work on, and what would be, let's say, boosters. So we recognize that some of you will be smaller than others, but I want you to take that into account when you apply. We will expect at least 2 to 3 people participating in the program. And the reason for that is that it's a very intense program. If you're just one person and you're advancing your innovation and project, it will be very difficult to attend all the session and also work on your project. So our recommendation would be that you're at least 2 to 3 people who can work and participate in the acceleration program during the 14 weeks that we offer.
Thanks, Louise. Super. There's one more question that I think is quite important. It's about whether an applicant can apply for more than one of the thematic areas, if they are capable of addressing, if their innovation falls within more than one of the thematic areas.
Yeah, I can take this. Obviously, we do. I see. Maybe this is. I think I see the question here in the Q&A.
Yes.
Obviously, we do know that the thematic areas are a bit broad. So there may be solutions that are cross-cutting that kind of fall under 1 or 2 or even 3 of the thematic areas of the challenge. But in the application, we ask you to kind of highlight which of these thematic areas you think is kind of most descriptive of the proposal that you have. And of course, they are broad. So we are looking, we hope that we can get, all kinds of different solutions. We love, to have a broad diversity of different proposals. But in the application form itself, you will have to choose which of these thematic areas your proposal falls under. But if you feel that it addresses more than one, no problem, don't worry about it. I would say, like, at least it's as long as it's at least one. You know, if your project proposal doesn't fall under any of these thematic areas, then of course we can't select you. But try to kind of highlight which kind of element or which thematic area you think best describes your project proposal.
Thank you. Let's see. I think there was another question that came in from Nadine in the chat about the average timeline the program expects the CSOs to implement their project thereafter.
Yeah, so after, I mean, obviously we have the program is 14 weeks, and Luis can talk more about the content, but that's about, you know, developing the innovations and solutions that you have. But we do then have a requirement that all proposed solutions and projects will have to be implemented within 12 months of graduation. So unfortunately, we can't do a follow-up for 5 years. So we are actually looking for organizations that are able to implement all their solutions within 6 to 12 months. Obviously, when I talked about scalable solutions, it can be that, you know, you continue with your project, but what you are proposing should be implemented within a year.
Great, thank you. And as I know that we're running over time, but I see that everyone's still on board, so we'll take a couple of more questions. There's one about cooperating between the mentioned countries, whether we will accept such applications.
Yeah, maybe I'll answer this one as well. So the only kind of limitation for the implementation is by country. So unfortunately, we don't support projects or proposals that are implemented in multiple countries. This is due to the requirements on Tadamon that if you implement a project, you have to be registered in that country. So I think there was another question also that asked, you know, I think there was a gentleman who had an organization that was based in Baghdad, if they can implement their project in other municipalities. That is completely okay. So as long as you have a proposal and you are registered and licensed to operate in one specific country, that's okay.
And maybe just to add to that, I mean, this is also an opportunity for you to test and pilot and scale your innovation in the country where you operate with the support of us and the funding that you can receive as a grant. If this solution is proven to be very successful in your country of operation, there's nothing stopping you from then scaling it elsewhere. So this is really what we want to do. We want to prove that these solutions work. And then that is the foundation for scale up and a replication. So really see this grant and the program as a way for you to really advance and accelerate your innovation and solution. If it was already ready for scale up, then maybe you wouldn't need us. So we're really here like in between an idea and something that's ready for scale up. We're here. We want to help you and work with you to really take it to the next level. I also just wanted to highlight, because I've seen there's a few questions about language again, whether we will translate the presentation today. We've made a decision not to translate the presentation today because anyone who cannot learn and understand what we're saying today will also not be able to benefit from the sessions and the offering that the Tadamon Accelerator has to offer you. So if an organization and its members cannot speak English, they will not be able to benefit from the program, and they will also not be accepted because everything is in English. I hope that that's very clear. And there might be other opportunities in Arabic and French, but for this time being and for this specific program, we're only offering in English. And I'm seeing here people asking or offering support in French. That is great. It's just that it's a very intense program with one-on-one mentorship. So all of that will take place in English. So if you do not speak English, we will not be able to accept you to the program. I hope that's, that clarifies any uncertainties.
Thank you, Louise. Well, I think we'll take one more question that's in the Q&A, and it's about to what extent does the project that's going to be implemented have to take into account the Boost Accelerator methodology, and perhaps that means what's learned throughout the program, throughout the modules. Maybe over to you, Louise, for the last question we're going to take for now.
So the Boost methodology is something that we are implementing as part of our current Boost Accelerator. And a lot of that methodology is also part of the Tadamon Accelerator. But I would say these are more modules, and these are more a thinking of what would you need to know and what tools and approaches can you benefit to scale your innovation. We're not here to change what you're doing. We're here to help you do it better, or perhaps think differently. So we will be evaluating you on those selection criteria that Ben presented before. Is it a feasible solution or innovation? Is it innovative? Is it impactful? Is it scalable? Do you have partnerships? So none of that is dependent on the Boost or Tadamon methodology. It's basically minimum criteria or criteria that will help us evaluate whether this solution can really make a change in the world and in the context where you're operating. So no, you are not required to incorporate this methodology. The methodology is more around how we offer you support and how we work with you to help you scale your innovations.
Thank you. Since we're about maybe 15 minutes over time, we're going to wrap up this information session. But if you should have any other questions, which I'm sure you might have, feel free to contact us about the application form and about the accelerator. We're also going to be organizing a couple of regional events over the course of the next 1 or 2 weeks, where we'll go through what we went today, and we'll have another more in-depth Q&A sessions with participants in the particular regions. So feel free to sign up to our newsletter if you haven't done so already. You can find that at the end of the landing page, our homepage, the Tadamon community. And you'll be able to receive updates regarding these events that we're planning to organize. And you can ask additional questions. So we're looking forward to your applications. Don't wait for June 10th. Apply earlier if you can. We're excited to see what kind of innovations you're working on, and excited to kick off this new initiative by Tadamon. So thank you for everyone that's joined us today. Thank you to the UNDP team for presenting, and we'll see you in our next Tadamon Talks.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day, everyone.
And just to note, we will be sending the recording. We have said this in the chat, but we will be sending the recording in a follow-up email to everyone that's registered. Thank you.